Hey everyone, my name is Rooster, and welcome back to Mechabellum. In today's video I have another tournament replays for you guys, which is the finals between Red Scare and Chemtrails of the NA weekend tournament that happened last Saturday. Now, let's have a look at the packs and see what the two players decided to go for. Marksman Specialist is the pickup for Red Scare, with Sledgehammers and Arclights, very capable defensive pack, and with the building layout we see in the background, I do think that picking defensively here makes a lot of sense. For Chemtrails, there was a Sledgehammer pack available too, which I would have probably recommended for the same reasons, but he decides to go for quick supply spec with Arclights and Steel Balls. Now this is also very much playable in defense. You kind of just utilize the fact that you do start with Arclights, which are so potent in long-range matchups, and then keep the Steel Balls around for the early game, often eventually selling them for something different. But that's not what we see here. Chemtrails decides to play some aggro and pushing into that right side. It's not very common, I'd say, at the high MMRs, but we do see it here. Reason being, this building layout kind of prevents you from pushing the left side, because if Red Scare were to put anything on that side, he would be heavily favored, because these are essentially like unit deployments in a way. But yeah, Chemtrails decides to push on the right side anyway, and luckily for him, Red Scare has not stacked the two Sledgehammer packs here on the right side, potentially because he wasn't necessarily expecting some aggro. Two Crawler pickups for Chemtrails, and we see a Marksman pickup for Red Scare, as well as a Fang. So kind of going for a bit of both, realizing that he might need some DPS on the right side, knowing that he already has the anti-armor cannon over here to kind of help with that, and so building a Marksman on the right to even things out. I still think that, you know, it'll be difficult for him to kill everything on this side using Marksman, and, you know, maybe it would have made more sense to go for double Chaff, or to go for something like even double Marksman. But it's tricky, you know, it's kind of hindsight as well. There's a couple of things that you need to play around, and a couple of things that you can expect, and here, this is what Red Scare decides to go for. Marksman will actually do pretty well. Arclight on the right side, able to dispatch of a Steel Ball before dying, which means that it will help out a bunch with the remainder of the chaff. But now, the late Crawler pack arrives, and left side is getting stalled a lot by this anti-armor cannon from Chemtrails, and so it will be around going over to him, presumably. Maybe this anti-armor cannon can actually make a difference as well. It will kill the Steel Ball that was heading over to the tower, and it still has some ammo left to get rid of the Crawlers. Actually will prevent a debuff there from happening. So now it's triple Arclight up against Sledgehammer's Arclights, but also an anti-armor cannon, which is going to be putting in a lot of work. Look at that, 15,000 damage on it, and it actually manages to clutch up the round. So buildings there definitely making a difference. Now, round number 2, mass-produced Sledgehammer shows up. Pretty good card, I'd say, this early on, but perhaps not what Red Scare wants, because it would also retroactively nerf the Sledgehammers that he already has. So perhaps just an angle here to skip. I think Extended Range Phantom Ray is a fun one as well. You can kind of just play them as an alternative to Phoenixes, but they're a bit more tricky to kill sometimes, even though they do have less range. But yeah, just a skip. He does get access to his Marksman, of course, so DPS looking good. Going to be buying another Sledgehammer, which are very, very capable against these type of Steel Ball pushes. Probably one of the best units for you to buy if you're struggling to deal with this type of an advance. Sledgehammers are great at stalling versus this type of thing. Now, I probably would have tried to put this vertically, although it does allow the opponent to potentially use some missiles in the mid-game, and you would have to add some chaff. But when they're placed vertically, the Sledgehammers take a lot longer for Steel Balls to get through, so that would be the benefit. Now, Chemtrails does pick up the mass-produced Sledgehammer card, as he didn't have Sledgehammers to begin with, so, you know, there's no units here that get nerfed by him picking that card, and it allows him to go for some very annoying and very cheap flanks that will still take quite a bit of investment to take out. So what we see is a Sledgehammer here on the front line, kind of just sitting there as a Crawler would to tank something like a missile and an initial gunfire. And then we have a Sledgehammer on the shallow flank and one on the deep flank as well. Now the Marksman is there, postured to be able to deal with it, but it's still going to take 5 shots for it to get rid of the whole pack. And, well, that takes a while when the reload speed is about 3 seconds. you can see that not every single sledgehammer got taken out. So the Arclight is still busy. The shallow flank is spawned in. A couple crawlers have died at the hands of those sledgehammers. And now the marksman is kind of stranded here. The Arclight is going to try and kill the crawlers to free up the marksman, but is it going to be able to kill all the sledgehammers before going down? I don't think it will. It gets close, but it does perish. And meanwhile, left side, you can kind of see one of the big problems, I guess, with the sledgehammers being stranded all the way on the left. They run into the wall, get stalled, and then, well, they're slow, so they take long to get to the building, or the turret. And then they also take really long to take down a fortified tower, because they just don't have a lot of DPS. So, effectively, these two units, for the time being, aren't really doing anything for Red Scare. Down the line, they might become useful, because if Red Scare can stabilize, then having some units over here will prevent Chemtrails from being able to very easily try and have a go at the other tower. But for the time being, it's not really working in his favor. Although I say that, he has been winning the first 2 rounds, mostly because, yeah, this anti-armor cannon is doing a good job of freeing things up and killing some of the remainder of the units at the end of the round. Now, round number 3, we get unit reinforcements. Nothing amazing in there, I'd say, for Red Scare. He could try and pick up the Stormcaller, although he didn't really leave himself a lot of space to put it down. But I think it still could be useful. Tarantula is another option, if he's not, you know, satisfied with the Arclight clear. Going to go for a Typhoon, which Chemtrails will pick up as well. Wondering what this will do for Red Scare. Looks like it'll just be sold. Alright, I mean, that's fine as well. And going to go into Hackers. I quite like this play, because he's up against mass-produced sledgehammers and steel balls and Arclights. I mean, at that point, you know, there is a lot of units that are very hackable, and Chemtrails goes for Mechanical Division steel balls on round 3, despite not having a lot of steel balls to begin with. And on the turn that Red Scare decides to go for some Hackers. Sorry, as I have a bit of a hiccup there. Now, that is a disaster, really, because that's giving the Hackers even more value, right? And they may even be able to hack through those Typhoons as well. Now, the good thing for Chemtrails is that Typhoons do have barriers available as one of their best techs. And, well, barriers are very good against Hackers, because Hackers deal 1/3 of their attack value when they have to damage things. So that includes damaging towers, it includes damaging barriers, and also units that are not hackable because of something like an anti-interference module. So there is still a silver lining here for Chemtrails, but that button click definitely put them somewhat behind. And yeah, Red Scare extending his lead so far, and on round number 4 you don't see anything too interesting. Laser Sight going to get picked up for Red Scare. Probably the best thing to pick up here. Absorption modules sometimes can be good, but there are no giants for the time being, although maybe Chemtrails would have to try and get into something like that. At this point, I'd say you probably want to try and get into air. Chemtrails currently doesn't really have amazing anti-air either. He does have the Typhoons, and that's what we're going to see now. So barrier will come out for the Typhoons, which will help tremendously against the Hackers, and hopefully kind of alleviate the bad situation that he was in, with the Hackers, of course, being used against Mechanical Division steel balls. But yeah, I mean, long term, something like a Raiden or a boat being added here could still be pretty good for Chemtrails. Another Hacker gets added for Red Scare as well. You can now see, hey, that's a pretty juicy hackable board that you've got there, so don't mind if I do. And Laser Sight is going to find its way on top of a Hacker and on top of a Typhoon. Now, the good thing about Typhoon and any barrier unit really on aggro is that, one, it can help you block spells like Oil. In this instance, it still lands almost in full. And 2, it prevents your front chaff from being immediately targeted and killed. This also holds true for things like missiles, right? Late game, it can be very valuable for the defending player to missile all of the front chaff from an aggro player and get some insta-locks going. Things like Barrier Typhoon and Barrier Fortress help with that. Now, still here, the Oil slows things down. The DPS is sufficient to get through these level 1 barriers, And yeah, Chemtrail's going to find himself down to 1,352 hit points at the start of the mid-game. But here are some unit drops, and well, I mentioned air units. Pick of the litter, 4 air units offered. Red Scare going to opt to go for Wraith. I think honestly this is a pretty useful unit drop for him as well, because the one thing that he maybe lacks is good chaff clear, and you do need very good chaff clear when you're playing hackers, because otherwise you're just going to be stuck shooting crawlers for the entirety of the round. But Chemtrails gets those Overlords, buys another one, and now he's getting into Typhoon boat. Now you can even see that he's selling out of the steel balls with mechanical division, so there's still a good amount of wasted resources there, but he kind of makes up for it here through that unit drop, giving him a lot of value for free, right? You don't have to pay as much for the unlock of the boat and the boat deployment, and so yeah, he's probably able to make a bit of a comeback happen here. We'll have to see. Low on hit points though, so he might still struggle a bunch. Range Wraith for Red Scare, no techs as of yet for Chemtrails. He is running the carry boat tech bar. Yesterday's video I featured the other boat tech bar that you can have with jump drive and chin gun, but here is the carry version of it. And well, let's see what happens. One of the Typhoons managed to pick up a level. That is very useful. The barriers also scale with levels, so that's good. Both left side towers, by the way, still kind of ignored because of the buildings, and well, a level has been pumped into it, so it would require a bit of investment to be able to get through somewhat quickly. I think Red Scare could try and give it a go, but it would require probably about 2 deployments, like a crawler and a steel ball and a missile as well, so you know, you would kind of hamper your defensive capabilities on the right side. You'd have to be pretty confident that you can miss 2 deployments on, you know, the main side of the field and still be able to win in spite of it. Hackers, though, doing well. Oil slowing things down. Bubbles getting popped. Typhoons getting hacked. And, well, the boats are doing their very best, but I think that the high-level marksman should be able to take them down, as there's enough distraction still to make sure that these boats are not hitting any crucial targets. Ball getting beaconed, though, actually manages to get a tower debuff. Now, that is quite useful. It is only 7 seconds, so it seems like eventually the marksman will be able to finish their job, but it does allow for Chemtrails to clear a significant portion of the field and make sure he's not going to take a whole bunch more damage. Crawler's going to be taking the tower as well. I'm not convinced they're going to be able to kill the marksman, although they will be able to do so. So it's literally just going to be 100 damage here for Red Scare. Round number 6. We see Shield Airdrop and Smoke Bomb offered. I mean, all of these are honestly worth considering. Haste Module, good item too. Very cheap. You get some nice stats. Shield Airdrop, useful to block something like a Smoke Bomb. And Intensive Training can be good too, to throw onto something like a Typhoon here for Chemtrails. Barrier is going to get clicked for Red Scare, so there's a good way of dealing with the potential smoke as well. At that point, though, you've got to wonder why pick the Shield Airdrop. I think at that point it would have been better to grab something like an Intensive Training so that you could have leveled up the hackers. Not sure what got picked up here. Probably some chaff units. Or something of the sort, as AA Marksman gets picked up as well. And on the other side, Chemtrails potentially just skipping. No, not skipping. Goes for the Haste Module on the Typhoon. That makes a lot of sense. And double techs the boats. Range and Overload, you kind of do need to make a push for those double techs when you run this tech bar setup. So it is a lot more expensive than the chin gun setup, which kind of just requires chin gun for the mid game. And then later on, you can maybe add something like Mothership or Jump Drive. But if you're running the carry boat bar, you kind of need to very rapidly get into both of these to get going. And then, you know, if you want to get Mothership, well, that's going to be your third tech, and thus is going to cost even more. It does come at a heavy price tag, but it scales very, very well. Let's see how things play out. Another Typhoon did get added on that left side, and you can see that the crawlers are pretty safe. Also kind of streaming in and then spreading out as they walk through the Typhoons. Or around them, rather, I should say. Boats, though, doing a good job killing the Wraith before they've managed to kill all of the crawlers. And, well, there you go. That's what hackers are not good at doing. It's dealing with all of these chaff units. Eventually, they do get freed up. But is it going to be enough? The Typhoon gets hacked just in time, although it is a parting gift, as the hacker had to perish for it. The Marksman, still alive, going to do its very best to clean up the board, but it looks like Chemtrails may be able to get away with this. Bit surprised the Marksman there did not decide to lock onto the Overlord, but, I mean, the way that I'm looking at the board is a little bit skewed, or at least it might give the wrong impression of where units actually are. Round number 7. Photon Coating, an okay item. Underground Threat's probably the most valuable here. Cheap spell, but can have a lot of impact, and you may be able to try and go for some tower debuffs. Level 3 tower over here, though, not really worth going for. I'm not sure I would throw a crawler at that. Oh, okay, it's gonna go for a steel ball as well, so that's a good move. I'd mentioned this earlier. And a missile on top of that. Can try for a beacon as well to just circumvent the wall. And armor the pickup for Red Scare. Now, this will be useful against the Typhoons. They're not exactly very good against armor. You can see 98 attack on the level 1s. 60 of that will get blocked by the armor, so it will significantly reduce the amount of chaff clearing that Chemtrails can do. And so some of these late crawlers might be able to distract the boats for longer, allowing for the Marksman to have some time to get the lock-ons they need. More and more sledgehammers, I think, being picked up here as well. Yes, that is what we see. A hacker on the left side. I mean, this was already added last round, but Chemtrails going for a push of his own. Typhoon, crawler, and boat pushing into that left side, going to be easily able to overwhelm that steel ball, and a crawler as well, all the way in the back here. I think this is something that you could expect if you're Red Scare. Or at least, you know, try and pump a level or two into this level 2 tower, because it is awfully exposed, right? There's just one arc light there. You know the underground threat is available because you picked it yourself. Probably worth defending, and that is likely going to cost him with the 7-second debuff. The crawlers in the top left are going to do their very best, but, you know, they can take down a level 2 tower relatively quickly. Level 3 is starting to push it at 60k hit points. Right side, getting overwhelmed. Level 2 crawlers, a lot harder to kill this time. The Wraith are doing their best. There's only one left on that right side. The left side overwhelmed. Hackers unable to do their job. This looks like a lot of damage is going to go the way of Red Scare. That debuff, fantastic move from Red Scare. And what was looking like a very dodgy early game with, you know, a bit of a quick trigger on the mechanical division balls, ends up stabilizing into Typhoon Boat. And that's gonna, yeah, significantly hurt Red Scare here. I mean, round 8 could very well be the last one, as both players are now down to sub 1500. Round number 8, we see Orbital Bombardment show up, Enhancement Module 2. There are a bunch of levels available here on the boats. Now, I think it might be better to grab the Orbital Bombardment here if you're Chemtrails. For Red Scare, of course, the Orbital is the only thing that makes sense. For Chemtrails, you could be greedy and grab the item. You can immediately pay off for the item. So you're going to make 400 here by leveling the boat, selling it, and then leveling another one. So the item costs 350. You're making 400. Oh no, you're making 500 actually. Never mind. So you are paying off 150. Actually, it's quite a good deal. And you're also getting the benefit of the bonus stats. So I guess there is something to be said for it. Again, likely this is going to be the last round if you manage to win or lose. And I feel like maybe Orbital here would make more sense to perhaps try and kill some more units, but it's tricky. Left side does get replaced with an Overlord, but we see a level 5 tower for Chemtrails. And I'm not sure what he's adding here on this round. Looks like maybe just a couple more marksmen, elite recruited. Yeah, that seems to be the case. Oil is back off cooldown, so that will be very useful. And Hacker going to get pulled over. I don't think this tower needed to be level 5, but I guess he had money to spare. I think level 4 is typically enough. Like, it's a very tanky tower. You're only going to get debuffed for 3 seconds. Pushing that even further to an even tankier tower in 1 second for, I believe, 250 resources is a lot of investment for, you know, little gain. So maybe you could try and use some money elsewhere. But let's see. The boat is going to be heading over. It gets stuck on it for a while. But the right side isn't able to punch through. Most of the Typhoon bubbles have been popped. But so has the chaff from Red Scare. So some hackers here are getting locked onto that Typhoon, not quite getting hacked. Marksman still stuck on the Typhoons that are alive from chemtrails. The hacker doing its very best, but the Overlord boats so quickly able to dispatch of everything on the ground with the double tech. With 4 boats left alive, that is simply going to be game here for chemtrails. So a good recovery, made possible partially as well through the unit drops there, Typhoon and boat, the pickup. But, you know, Red Scare got some okay things from it as well with the Wraith, and there was some wasted resources there with the Mechanical Division steel balls, which eventually had to be completely sold. A tough game for sure. I think that playing this type of composition into Typhoon boat is always going to be a nightmare in the late game. Getting through Typhoon barriers is just so incredibly difficult. You kind of need to have Scorpions, but, you know, Scorpions are very vulnerable to Overlords as well, and they cost a good amount. So, yeah, it's tricky. Now, I will say, if I look at this section of the map, this missile is poorly positioned by chemtrails. This missile is supposed to, like, not hit the flank, so that if a flank comes in, not, like, both missiles don't get triggered, essentially, and you're not vulnerable to, say, like, you know, a Crawler plus Phoenix play. So I wonder if we play this again as Red Scare, can we make use of that? So I would go for the orbital for sure, and I guess I would just use it somewhere over here, and then oil, I'm gonna do the same play. Left side tower, I am going to level twice, lone, temp range, temp speed. We already have the mobile beacon, which is very nice. And then I'm going to go for a Phoenix play on that flank. So let's try that. So what I have to do here is make sure that this missile does hit the arc light. I think if it's here, we should be good. And then I'm going to put a Phoenix in the corner here and just beacon that straight into the tower. I'm not going to beacon it all the way to the other one because this one's level 3, so that's going to take way too long to kill. Missiles here does seem useful, so let's missile this. Let's missile this crawler pack as well, so we don't have to deal with that as it comes around. Hacker level seems pretty useful to me. We won't be able to get more marksman deployment, so I'm hoping that this is enough to kill the boats. But, you know, that's something we'll have to see. Maybe, like, missiling some of these crawler packs would be helpful as well. Can missile this sledgehammer too. Just using a whole bunch of missiles in here and there. Let's go for this as well. Oh, do I kind of want to get the second attack enhancement? Maybe I do. Maybe I've spent a little bit too much here on the missiles. It's tricky. I mean, I guess I sell the steel ball here. We don't really need that. So let's get this second attack enhancement going, and then maybe I just level a sledgehammer and an arc light, something like that. Let's see. So this arc light should, I have to take a quick look. Maybe it needs to be a bit. Oh, I do hope it gets hit. Okay, it does get hit. The round started immediately. You have to be a bit careful there about the hitbox, but okay. So the arc light tanked both of the missiles. And the Phoenix should be able to get a tower debuff here. Maybe that buys enough time as it comes in immediately. With the second attack enhancement, it also kills the tower immediately, by the way, which is very useful. And it does already seem to go a lot better this time. Just a bunch of missiles, get that debuff, and looks like we are going to be winning quite convincingly here. I mean, so many units left alive still, and 9 seconds of debuff does make a massive difference. So there was a win to be had here. It's a bit risky though because, well, you'd have to just go full gamble, right? On your deployments. You're not strengthening the main part of your board. If, you know, one more missile gets added over here, then this doesn't work. Or like if this tower ends up getting leveled a couple times, it might not work. But yeah, Arclight on the flank here. The reason I'm not using a crawler, by the way, is because the crawler sometimes can survive. And also it pulls more units, right? It's wider, so it pulls a bigger range of units. It might pull the Overlord even. So I want to have something that's very narrow, so it doesn't pull as many units, and something that will get killed instantly. Like if it gets hit by a missile, there's no chance that, you know, there's a couple of units on the edges that survive, which can happen with a crawler pack. So that's why I would use something like an Arclight or a Marksman. I think an Arclight has a slightly bigger hitbox than a Marksman does. So it might may be able to soak up a missile a bit more easily. But yeah, slight mistake there on the edge from chemtrails can be abused to get a debuff and win this. Aside from the tower cheese, I don't think there's a good way of getting through this. But yeah, this is you know, a quick way to try and get a win here, and it's informative to a certain extent, right? This is just a winning late game comp. I think chemtrails is just always going to win this if it goes to around 9, 10, 11. Boats just scale way better than something like, you know, Sledgehammer, Hacker plus Marksman. And you just have to try and abuse the defensive positions on these type of boards, right? Because it's an expensive comp to play, so there's often going to be a few gaps here and there, as long as you haven't gotten to that late game yet. Anyway, if you like this video, please leave a thumbs up. Let me know down in the comments below what you thought of it. And did you know about this little flank trick? Have you used it in your own games? Now, if you want to stay up to date on latest content, please consider subscribing. And if you want to see me play live, check me out on Twitch. With that being said, take care, guys, and see you in the next video. Bye-bye.